Good evening and welcome to the Stibitz-Wilson Awards. I'm Eleanor Barker, the Executive Director of the American Computer and Robotics Museum, and I'll be your MC this evening. We've got a nice crowd tonight. Thank you all for coming, and I know you're eager to hear from our exciting honorees. But before we get started, I would like to thank our generous sponsors for making this evening possible. All of us at the museum want to express our heartfelt appreciation to the businesses, organizations, and individuals who have brought us this year's Stibitz Awards, starting with tonight's presenting sponsor. Porter, are you with me? Zoot! Thanks to all the folks at Zoot. The Nels and Liz Weiler Foundation are also presenting sponsors, as is the Norm Asbjornson College of Engineering at Montana State University, and Mr. Jerry Orstrom. Our supporting sponsor, thank you. Our supporting sponsors, the MSU Office of the President and the MSU College of Letters and Science, and our contributing sponsors, MSU Honors College, Holmes and Turner, John and Catherine Hemingway, thank you so much, KBZK-TV, Yellowstone Public Radio, First Interstate Bank, the Element Hotel, Color World Printers, It Takes a Village. Let's all give them a big round of applause. So I'd like to kick off tonight's festivities by telling you a little bit about the American Computer and Robotics Museum. The museum opened here in Bozeman in 1990, and today it is the oldest museum of its kind in the world. Through the years, co-founders George and Barbara Karamedjev have thoughtfully curated a small but significant collection spanning 4,000 years of information technologies, from cuneiform tablets to quantum computers. The museum has welcomed hundreds of thousands of visitors from all over the world and has become one of the premier storytellers of the evolving intersection between humanity and technology. Artifacts in the museum's collection range from the rare, like this recently acquired model of a Babbage difference engine, to the nostalgic, like this beautifully preserved tin robot Lilliput. So adorable. And our artifacts have even shown up in the movies.
Dad told me you found something on a train during the war. A dial that could change the course of history.
You stole it. Then you stole it.
And then I stole it. It's called capitalism.
But I've been looking for this all my life.
I don't know how to break this to you, Andy, but that dial of destiny you've been looking for your whole life, it's called the Antikythera mechanism, and it's in our Benchmarks of the Information Age exhibit. Poor guy searched all over the world, and all he had to do was come to Bozeman. Though George passed away a few years ago, Barbara remains firmly at the helm of the museum as our board president, and is joined by a talented group of directors and a committed staff who are thoughtfully guiding the museum into the future. Barbara will now join us on stage to say a few words about the Stibitz-Wilson Awards. Welcome, Barbara.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight in this beautiful Ellen Theater. I am Barbara Karamedjev, co-founder and board director, president of the American Computer and Robotics Museum. And it's my sincerest pleasure to welcome you to the 21st Stibitz-Wilson Awards. My husband George first came up with the idea for these awards in 1997 to recognize the unsung heroes of computer science and to shine a light on the profound impact that the work of these insightful men and women have on our lives today. The Stibitz-Wilson Awards are named for George Stibitz, whose work at Bell Labs laid the foundation for today's digital computing devices, and for the biologist Edward E. Wilson, who made landmark contributions to our understanding of the complex web of life on Earth. One of the very first award recipients is here with us tonight, Maury Irvine. Maury Irvine was honored in 1997 for his work on TRADEC, the first transistorized computer. Maury, would you wave to the crowd so we can applaud you? I'd like to recognize a few other past honorees who are in the audience tonight. And if you each could stand up as I say your name, and the audience, if you could hold your applause until the end. David Endis for the invention of the first neural computer. Rufus Kahn for the groundbreaking contribution to quantum memory. John Hemingway for distinguished nature filmography. Bob Metcalfe for seminal contributions to the development of Ethernet. Diana Six for expanding our understanding of bark beetle ecology, forest adaptations, and climate change. Kathy Whitlock for outstanding scientific research, advocacy, and public outreach in biodiversity. Let us now show appreciations for this very good. The Stibitz-Wilson Award is just the beginning for some of our honorees. Many of the luminaries who were recognized from this stage have gone to recover very, very many prestigious awards. Bob Metcalfe, you're going to have to stand up for this one, please do. Bob received Stibitz-Wilson Award in 2012 and many more afterwards, but just this past year, he won the very prestigious Turing Award for invention, standardization, and commercialization of Ethernet. That is like a Nobel Prize for computing. Congratulations, Bob. Several of our Stibitz-Wilson honorees have gone on to win National Medal of Technology and Innovation. Here we see Doug Engelbart getting the award from Bill Clinton in 2000 and Ralph Baer from George Bush in 2006. And here are Ted Hoff, Federico Fagin, and Stanley Mazer receiving their medal from President Obama in 2010. Vinton Cerf and Robert Kahn received Stibitz-Wilson Awards in 1999, 6 years later earned the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Leroy Hood and Mary Barenbaum each followed up their Stibitz-Wilson Award with the National Medal of Science, his in 2013, hers in 2014. Tim Berners-Lee of the World Wide Web fame that we all know as www. Was knighted by Queen Elizabeth in 2004, just 4 years after receiving Stibitz-Wilson Award here in Bozeman. And so far, we had 2 Stibitz-Wilson honorees to go and accept Nobel Prizes. Jack Kilby, Nobel Prize in Physics in the year 2000, and Jennifer Doudna, Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2020. The talent that has appeared on the Stibitz-Wilson stage throughout the years is truly amazing, and tonight's no exception. I know you are all eager to meet this year's honorees, so let's get the program underway by meeting our first presenter, my son, Mark. Dr. Mark Keremetjev grew up in Bozeman before heading out to Cornell and the University of Florida to get his PhD in astrophysics. He spent a decade in the federal government doing complex technical program management before moving to the private sector. He currently is mission director for the planet's upcoming hyperspectral satellite mission named Tanager. He is also an American Computer and Robotics Museum board member and a proud father of 3. Mark, come on to the stage.
Hi there. Delighted to be back this year. Super relieved that Eleanor is here doing the run a show this year, though. So we're gonna start. Our first awardee is Gregory Robinson. But before we begin there, we have a great video that kind of talks about the James Webb Space Telescope, which we're honoring him for, and provides a bit of context for what an amazing achievement it is for maybe the three of you who aren't familiar with that satellite system. So let's cue up the video.
From a tropical rainforest to the edge of time itself, James Webb begins a voyage back to the birth of the universe.
December 25th, 2021, Christmas Day for many. The largest, most powerful, and most complex space telescope ever built begins its journey into space. Six months later, its first images are released, demonstrating its incredible scientific power. Building and then launching such a large telescope into space was an incredible engineering challenge. Fully deployed, Webb is too large to fit inside any rocket fairing. Engineers designed it to be folded like origami to squeeze inside the European Space Agency's 18-foot diameter rocket fairing. Once in space, unfolding Webb was an intricate ballet. For nearly 3 weeks after launch, controllers at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore stepped through the activation of 178 release mechanisms, enabling Webb's deployable pieces to carefully unfold, while also guiding Webb to its orbital destination, an orbit around Lagrange Point 2, nearly 1 million miles from Earth.
And we have a fully deployed JWST observatory.
After this delicate dance, Webb's golden mirrors were precisely aligned using motors behind each mirror segment, adjusting them to form one monolithic mirror. Science exploration started once Webb's instruments fully cooled, about 6 months after launch. Webb is designed to capture the faint infrared light from the very first galaxies to form after the Big Bang, looking back in time more than 13.5 billion years. To do this, Webb has the largest primary mirror ever flown in space. At 6.5 meters, it has more than 6 times the light collecting area of the Hubble Space Telescope primary mirror. Webb's 4 cutting-edge infrared instruments and cameras operate at super cold temperatures colder than the surface of Pluto. Getting this cold is done with the help of the largest sun shield ever flown, a 5-layer, tennis court-sized sun shield that blocks heat from the sun, Earth, and Moon. The Webb telescope was a technological challenge like no other, born of the efforts of thousands of people across the United States, Canada, and Europe. And it's now being used by astronomers worldwide to tackle some of the most fundamental questions about the universe, revealing sights we've never seen before. Webb is an exploration powerhouse. With it, we can see farther back in time and explore the very first galaxies that formed after the Big Bang. We can analyze atmospheres of planets orbiting distant stars, see hidden details in planets in our own solar system, and relish the beauty of the cosmos. Webb is our eyepiece to the uncharted, unknown, and unimagined.
Yeah, stunning images. I actually, one of the pillars of creation there, I actually have printed out a giant poster of it and have it in my house. It's one of those outstanding photos. So, yeah, I'm delighted to introduce our next awardee, Gregory Robinson. The James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, is a monumental achievement. It's one of those feats that shows the limits of human ingenuity truly have no bounds. As the video we just watched showed, the scale and complexity of the mission is unparalleled in the history of satellite design and execution. So I worked astrophysical instrumentation in an earlier life and have since become a program manager for space systems. From that vantage point, JWST is a miracle. And our awardee, Greg Robinson, was instrumental in pulling it off. When I was in grad school, back in 2007, I remember going to the American Astronomical Society conference in Seattle, where they had a full-scale mock-up of the satellite there. It was certainly impressive. And I remember clearly hearing them say, launching in 2012 or 2013. And I was thinking, wow, that's a long time from now. Over the course of the next 10 years, the program went through a series of crises. Its costs ballooned, the technology challenges seemed impossible, and the program was far off the rails. Then, in 2018, enter Greg Robinson. Greg is the consummate public servant. He had already spent over 25 years at NASA making missions a success and had built up a track record as one of NASA's most effective program manager. He was brought in to fix it and finish it, and wow, did he deliver. For those of you who don't know what a program manager does, think of them like a general contractor for a construction project. They oversee the entire project and make sure everything comes together. So now think of the work involved in building like a $1 million home. It's Bozeman. I know like half of you have been through this. You have to make sure the foundation is poured, the builders get the framing and electrical and siding and fixtures and painting and so on and so on and so on. Now imagine a project 10 times as complex. Now imagine one 100 times as complex. 1,000. None of that even matches. JWST was approximately 10,000 times more complicated because it was a $10 billion program. It had 20,000 people working on it across 29 states and 14 countries. That was what Greg Robinson was asked to do. Lead a program of that magnitude that was behind schedule, over budget, and that Congress was actively trying to kill. And Greg did it. He pulled off an amazing turnaround. His leadership was lauded by NASA officials as one of the key ingredients in finishing the mission, and the result is a treasure that has lifted humanity up a notch and expanded our understanding of the universe. Unfortunately, Greg could not join us tonight, but we have a pre-recorded comments for us to enjoy this evening instead. Thank you, Greg.
Hello, Mr. Robinson. My name is Barbara Keremedjeff, and I'm the co-founder and the board president of the American Computer Museum here in Bozeman, Montana. It is truly my great honor and privilege to meet you today. And I'm delighted that you can join us via Zoom to accept the 2023 Stibitz-Wilson Award and talk to us about this amazing accomplishment, which is the James Webb Telescope program. Joining us for this conversation is Jim Manning. Jim served as a planetarium director at the Museum of the Rockies here in Bozeman for many, many years, and has been involved with the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore and the Astronomical Society of the Pacific in San Francisco. He has followed the Webb Telescope program with tremendous interest and has prepared a few questions to get us started. Jim, I'll hand it to you. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Robinson. It's a true pleasure and privilege to speak with you today.
So I joined in March of 2018. We had to re-baseline with the NASA administrator, with OMB and Congress. That was not trivial at all. So I told them, give me another $800 million, which was a big number, and we'll get over the goal line in 2021. I think I'm losing track of years now. So we did launch a few months later than my my deal with my stakeholders, but that was due to many different things, and some was COVID that really set us back. Launch vehicle was having a few issues, nothing major, but some issues that pushed us back, and then just normal development. So we still launched in 2021. I never had to go back and ask for another penny. We actually got it done within budget and mostly within schedule. So that's kind of my journey over the last 33 years. There are a few other stops in between there.
Well, the Webb telescope certainly has been a triumph, not only of science, but also of engineering. And it, of course, had a very long development history, in part because so many new technologies and aspects of operation had to be invented to make it work. Could you describe some of those new technologies and which you consider to be most significant in the operation and success of the telescope?
So we claim that Webb has 10 new technologies. The science and PI teams will debate that and say our instruments have a lot more new technology, but we claim 10. Every single one was needed to do this mission. And it's really risky when you add new technology. Many of our big missions, like going to Mars, we may add 1, 2, maybe 3 new technologies. But in Webb's case, we did 10 because it was necessary to get what we needed out of it. Just to mention a couple of them, the mirrors on Webb were just the size, 6.5 meters, and on Hubble was 2.4 meters. 18 segmented mirrors versus 1 monolithic mirror for Hubble. That was a challenge alone. Each of those 18 segments has its own focus capability, articulation capability, curvature, etc. But then all of them have to act as one. So pretty proud of that. The backplane that holds that and the science instruments using that lightweight beryllium with the stability under very cold conditions. Again, not trivial engineering. So that's one area. The one that I would say was probably the hardest was the sun shield, that tennis court size sun shield. We just finished up the US Open, so I'll go with the tennis court. There are 5 different layers there, and each layer deploys separately. The technology is actually the membrane for each of the layers. We had many tries, many issues, had to go back and re-engineer some things. One of the things that I say, we have new technology and we use technology readiness levels for maturity. We've never really developed as a community, I mean, within and outside of NASA, what I call engineering maturity. Some people play with it. Once you get that technology, really building it into a system that can work, the challenge is exponential. A lot of times you say, well, the technology is ready, we just keep moving it. That was extremely, extremely difficult. And just to mention that sun shield, it helps keep one side with a telescope and looking out into deep, dark space, keeps it extremely cold. And of course, on the bottom side, with the spacecraft with the computer and everything, all electronics, has to stay nice and toasty, and that faces the Earth, Sun, and the Moon. So the difference in temperature is, I forget, 400, 500 degrees different from one side to the other. And we have some cryo technology too, but the sun shield is the major, major contributor to that.
Well, Dr. Robinson, congratulations on your very well-deserved reward. Do you have perhaps a final word of wisdom for us as you accept it?
Yeah, one of I have a lot of those too. Always say, why do we have to get so old to get so wise, right? So I have a lot of them. I think I like to say, many times we need something very bold. So you have to be willing to try bold things to meet your goals and objectives. And it's okay to do that. And yes, you will have failures along the way. You want to minimize those. You want the impact of failure to be small. But you have to get up and go again. And with this Webb team, I mentioned all of the technical challenges. The team never tucked their tails between their legs. They met every challenge. Many of these folks had kids, had new babies when they joined Webb, and these kids were in college when we launched. So they've been in a long time. They've seen a lot of failures, setbacks, mishaps, almost cancellations. So when you go for something bold, accept the risk, accept a little failure, but don't ever stop pursuing that.
Well, Dr. Robinson, it's been wonderful speaking with you, and thank you for your service to the nation and to the exploration of the universe.
Thank you as well. One last thing, we launched Christmas morning 2021. I've never done a scientific survey, but I met people from all over the world, whether I'm traveling or just around home, who said on Christmas morning, we got up and turned the TV on, woke up grandma, woke up the kids, got a little food going, and that was on Christmas morning. So I contend, that's all over the world, by the way. Time zones were different, so people may have been doing dinner. I think there were more TV sets on Christmas morning than in the history of humankind, and that's because of Webb.
Greg, thank you so much for this very inspirational, remarkable story you told us. It's so many layers. It's so inspiring, so wonderful. And there's so much that we're looking forward to. And we absolutely looking forward to welcome you here in Bozeman soon. And Jim, thank you so much for helping us with this conversation. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Jim for organizing and steering that fascinating conversation with Greg. I feel that we really learned a lot about what it takes to explore deep space. And now from deep space, let's move to the surface of this planet. And in order to celebrate that, I'm going to introduce our next presenter, John Hemingway. John is a writer and filmmaker who has worked around the world focusing on, this is only a partial list, nature, science, history, biography, travel, the American West, the Arabian Peninsula, and Africa. While he has earned many awards, his greatest aspiration has always been to change minds. And John will be welcoming the team from the award-winning documentary film series Nature to the stage. Come on, John.
Thank you, Eleanor, and thank all of you for being here. So, modesty aside, I can declare that I'm supremely qualified to introduce Fred Kaufman, Janet Hess, and Bill Murphy, since I was a witness to the birth of the Nature series. I'd like to introduce you to their work. So here is a sneak preview of this coming season on Nature.
Look around and drink it in. Don't stop me now, don't stop me from seeing.
On an Australian island at the end of the world, one man gets a life-shattering diagnosis.
I didn't feel right. I'd had a really strong headache for about a year. The neurosurgeon noticed just a heap of lesions in my brain.
A nature lover, Pete turns to the stream that runs through his home city for solace.
I think destiny probably drew me to the waterway.
There, he meets a very special animal.
I couldn't believe it the first time that this platypus just zoomed right up to me and put a bill out of the water and started wiggling it.
It was the first of many encounters, so Pete named her Zoom.
It felt like a doorway had opened. A magical portal into the world of the platypus.
This egg-laying, duck-billed mammal is perhaps the most unusual creature in the animal kingdom.
But then one day I came across Zoom and everything changed. I saw that there was a plastic ring around her bill. I felt helpless. It was as if the natural world was trying to deliver a message. You have to do something to help the platypus.
If you come across a jam of cars in Wyoming's Grand Teton National Park, it's possible you're about to see a very famous wild animal.
Grizzly Bear 399, she's known as the matriarch or the queen.
At 27 years old, Bear 399 is believed to have 22 descendants and is thought to be the oldest known female with cubs.
399 is on the road to international fame.
Her rock star status led photographer Tom Mangelson to chronicle her life.
I've been documenting 399 for 15 years.
You think about what this bear has gone through in her 27 years of life. Raised all those cubs, all the brutalness of winter, all the lack of food.
Season after season, this mother and grandmother survives.
She's an extremely incredible bear. None ever like her, and none likely to ever come this way again.
Every year, shorebirds take to the sky for a marathon migration. They follow 8 major routes called flyways. Along the way, they must stop and refuel. but development and climate change are having an impact on their food source.
When birds are on migration, little bits of habitat are disappearing, disappearing, disappearing.
Adults will face hunger and starvation. We see a population that is declining because of all kinds of problems.
Our studies on birds actually can contribute to making a better world. We can learn from the birds as canaries in the coal mine because they tell a global story that the world has troubles.
Don't stop me now. Don't stop me from
In the African wilderness, there are three rivals whose worlds are about to collide. A lioness on the run with her cubs, a lone leopard possessive of her territory, and a pair of cheetah bachelor brothers looking for mates. But in a land where they keep bumping into each other, how will these big cats survive? The world's oceans are still shrouded in mystery. An alien world with wondrous animals and strange gatherings. To unlock these secrets of the deep, the Spy in the Wild series continues with perhaps their most ambitious mission yet. 30 new spy creatures will infiltrate almost every ocean on the planet. Custom made to resemble the animals they're filming, these incognito cameras capture moments of extraordinary intelligence and emotions. Perhaps we have more in common with these sea creatures than we think.
Isn't that wonderful? So we live in an age when the news about nature is rarely good. And I'm thinking particularly about habitat loss and the survival of or the extinction of certain species. I know you don't like to be kitschy in your shows, but do some of these issues guide you in your decision to make films? I'd love to hear from you, Fred.
Well, it's you know, these days it's just unavoidable. You saw we had a little promo for Flyways, which looks at the extraordinary migrations of shorebirds. But with climate change, you know, they find themselves in Alaska, you know, 2 weeks after the insects have hatched, and they're looking for food. And so those stories are sort of unavoidable, and there's far more emphasis now, particularly at PBS, where climate change is a priority in everything they do, not just natural history films, but the news, etc. So for us, there always is a balance between celebrating the natural world and its wonder, and presenting, you know, the grim facts and what the future would be. And you know, that's just a challenge in everything, and it's a challenge in storytelling. And what we try to do sometimes is create characters with the animals as their individuals, or they have personalities, and hopefully that draws you into the story. And where the environmental issues really are impacting their lives, we weave that in as well. But it's a real challenge to not turn the audiences off from just what could feel like overwhelming, dire situations, and yet, on the other hand, to really celebrate, because I think of nature as being a celebration of the natural world. But I also think we had a little saying under our nature logo, a voice for the natural world. And that's kind of become our guiding principle, to really kind of take their point of view. So in our world, in nature, animals are good, people are bad. That's kind of, you know, how we approach things. And to try to balance, you know, this celebration and the wonder and the signs of their lives with what they face.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. I mean, a lot of times it's very important to have heroes in the story, and very often people are the heroes. There are so many great people out doing great work, and a lot of the times the way to tell a story like that is to find the person who's taken up that battle and who's championing a creature. We did a very tough film on the pangolin, and but there's a woman in Africa who has a rescue center, and she's pioneering raising pangolins, which is an extremely difficult behavioral thing to pull off. And she's so remarkable, and that got so much press and so much support. So it really is the quality of the storytelling and the characters. It's like it's going to see Schindler's List. You know, humans are the bad guys and the good guys. So it's finding a path that can take you through a story that way.
And frankly, early on, if you go back 40 years, there was very much a conscious and deliberate effort not to include any sort of environmental issues. These films, which really started in England, BBC and Survival Anglia and others, their approach was basically blue chip, which meant it's your basic observational animal behavior documentary. They didn't even want people in it. And certainly they didn't want any voices or sync dialogue, which meant they had to translate. So in order to maximize the sale of a film in a particular territory, they just wanted to change the narration. And they wanted the films to be evergreens. So you could watch it in January and you could watch it 4 years later and it would still be relevant. And so they did not want anything timely or topical in the films that would take away from that.
And also there was a, kind of up until maybe 10 years ago, the whole idea of you address conservation issues.
Could you speak up a little bit, Bill? I don't know if...
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is...
Yeah, up until maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, there was that whole kind of feeling that if you address a conservation issue in a film, people won't watch. They'll turn the channel. That you don't want to kind of dump a problem, an issue, into someone's lap where they feel like they can't do anything to help. And I think one of the things that has evolved over time, which has helped us to actually incorporate conservation storylines in our films, is social media. So now when we have an issue film, we just don't leave it with the audience. We actually invite our audience to engage in conversation about that issue. You know, all throughout, you know, for months after the film, we'll have chats with scientists that are either in the film or someone that can speak on the topic to engage with our audience to kind of continue the idea of that, you know, it doesn't end in broadcast. This is a conversation. This is an issue that we can bring forward and let our audience become more proactive.
Some people are experts in their field, yet Sylvia doesn't just study, document, and understand the seas. She loves the oceans and its inhabitants in a way that a mother loves a child. Moreover, she respects and loves everyone else who shows the kind of childlike curiosity and passion for the ocean that she has. And I can't underscore how grateful I am for the encouragement and support she's given me and my sea turtle work over the years, plus her 53 years of commitment to the Oceanic Society that I now lead, thanks in large part to her. So I'm proud to present my dive buddy with this award, named in part for another biodiversity legend and former friend of ours, may he rest in peace, Dr. Ed Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, her deepness, Dr. Sylvia.
Thank you. And thank you for this amazing opportunity. I am especially honored because Ed Wilson was a personal friend I met many years ago on a beach in the southernmost part of this country, Dry Tortugas. But the ocean comprises 97% of the biosphere. Life occurs where there's water. and most of Earth's water is ocean. And to think that the greatest era of discovery on this planet is just about to begin. We've opened the door, but we've only seen, maybe stretching it a bit, possibly as much as 10% of the ocean has been seen by humans. We've only mapped in the same detail that we have for the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and the terrestrial parts of Earth. Maybe because we're really trying now to do this in the last decade or so, and the decade to come, but only about 20% of the ocean has been mapped with that kind of detail. We're beginning to take it on. And again, I feel privileged to be a witness, to be around at just the right moment when the development of the ways and means to be able to go deeper in the ocean than you can holding your breath, and more than that, to have the gift of time. So at the same time that astronauts were beginning to explore the skies above by taking humans up in the sky, I was one of the aqua babes who were able to go as an aquanaut into the depths of the ocean, not just for how long can you hold your breath, or how long can you stay on a single tank of air, or how long can you stay with a rebreather that gives you the gift of hours underwater. No, days, weeks to live underwater, to actually get to see the creatures who live there on their own terms. I mean, think about Jane Goodall, 15 years, and she's still learning about the chimpanzees, one species, over a long period of time, day and night, getting to know them. How long do we have when we go into the ocean to get to know creatures on their own terms? I love the story of the platypus and the human being, an individual animal that one human is getting to know as another individual, and to see that they have faces, behaviors, a place in a system, being able to stay underwater, embracing the technologies that did not exist until, right about now, the last 100 years, the last 50 years, the last 10 years. We are on a roll in terms of harnessing technology to give us access to our own planet, whether it's up in the treetops. One of my fellow botanists and explorers, Meg Lohman, lives up in the top of the trees for a while, seeing new ways of getting to know the creatures on their own terms. Down deep in the soil, we're beginning to use technologies to really understand the nature of this planet better. But the dominant feature, think about it. Most of what we know is known from the surface, or where divers can go, where scuba divers can go, and most of it on a very short passport. Being able to have the gift of time, day and night, for as much as a week, it seems remarkably short. But what you can see, even with those glimpses, using technologies that have made it possible to extend the time and to communicate what you're seeing in real time. Now, you take it for granted that astronauts can speak over thousands of miles back to humans, but to imagine being, 20 meters, even a few thousand feet under the surface of the sea, to be able to talk directly, it's a technological engineering challenge. We have a long way to go. But the gift of being able to meet the creatures there, get to know where that grouper lives, to see that animal day and night, to see who are among the neighbors that those creatures hang out with, to get to see that fish, like cats and dogs, like chimpanzees, like grizzly bears, like platypuses, they all have faces. They're all individuals. They have their respective fingerprint, DNA, that sets each one apart, just as each one of us is different from every other one. One of the miracles of biology that was impressed upon me by Ed Wilson, who came to embrace this whole business of the chemistry of life and to really revel in being able to document using this essence of life in ways that were not available when he was a kid, when I was a child, when anybody else in the past. We now have the capacity to see with new eyes the living world around us.
Thank you so much. Before my closing remarks, I'd like to mention tonight's event would have not been possible without months and months of hard work and tireless dedication of our Eleanor Barker. Thank you so much. I just want to extend my deepest gratitude. And thank you all so much for joining us tonight to recognize these exceptional scientists and science communicators. They have inspired us with their tireless pursuit of knowledge, dedication to discovery, and unnerving commitment to the healthy and vibrant world. In recognizing these remarkable individuals, not only honor their accomplishment, but also acknowledge their power of human curiosity and innovation. And let us remember that the science is a collective endeavor, and we all have part to play in exploring the boundaries of what's possible. Thank you to the honorees, and thank you to the Bozeman community for joining us in celebrating science. We hope you enjoy it, we hope you learned something, and we look forward to seeing you at the American Computer and Robotics Museum soon. Thank you and good night.